Welcome to the 20th Monday Morning Media Minute. This one is in response. I was going to talk to you about the conclusion to my six-part series on what makes stuff go viral. But I got a question from a person named Christy M, and she asked me to look at a YouTube video by a World War II survivor named Kitty Worthman. And she was describing how socialism changed her Austrian homeland. And Christy would like me to comment on that. And so I'll tease you. Next week I'll finish my six-parter on what makes stuff go viral. Don't miss it. Here's my take on the video from YouTube if you want to look it up. Kitty Worthman, W-E-R-T-H-M-A-N-N, an old Austrian lady, has strong feelings about socialism. My take. The human heart longs for freedom. Free markets produce economic growth. Free market capitalism allows the human heart to achieve its potential. The ideal free society offers equality of opportunity to each individual. But since everyone is not equally endowed, if you will, they don't have all the same potential. Free markets therefore produce inequality. Winston Churchill had a take on this. What it says here in this picture is, the inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of misery. Socialism is the philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Winston knew a little bit about government. The human heart also values fairness. Freedom and fairness are often in conflict. Since freedom inevitably produces inequality, which seems unfair, oftentimes we struggle knowing what is the right thing to do, especially on controversial issues. How should we solve these inherent quandaries? In the area of economics, our country has determined that a progressive tax rate structure is best. The more you earn, the higher tax rate you pay. And over the last 20 years, regardless of what the politicians say, it has become even more progressive. Since the year 2000, income taxes paid by the top 1% has increased by 20%, while the bottom half saw their share of the tax reduced by 40%. You may ask, what's the separating line between the top 50% and the bottom 50% of income earners? You want to guess? Mama? You don't want to guess? Anybody out there want to guess? I can't hear you. The separating line between the top 50% of earners and the bottom 50% earners in 2018, which is the newest year they have out, is $43,613. So if you make $43,614, you're in the top 50% of earners in this country. In 2018, the average income taxes paid and the percent of the taxes they paid goes like this. I'm going to use my whiteboard. If you're in the top 1%, the richest 1%, think Bill Gates, you paid this amount of tax, $426,639. That's how much tax you paid to the federal government. And that equals 40%, 40.1% of all the income taxes the federal government received. Now, if you're in the top 5%, think the richest guy you knew and his richer friends, you paid $128,379. That's the amount of federal tax dollars you paid that year. And the people who have paid into the government, this is a cumulative total, 60.3% of all the taxes are in the top 5%. If you're in the top 10%, we'll call these people shamelessly rich.
Like, how much money is that?
I didn't look that up. 75, these people paid in 2018, they paid $75,967. And that group total is 71.4%. Now, if you're in the top 25%, ridiculously rich, you paid $37,031 in taxes in 2018. And now we're up to 87% of all the income taxes paid were paid by the top 25%. Now, if you're in the top 50%, you paid $20,663, and that's 97.1%. The top 50% of income earners pay 97% of the taxes.
Like, do you know how much they make?
If you're in the bottom 50%, they pay, you want to guess what it is? How much money does the bottom 50% pay on average? $626. The wealthiest Americans take in 20% of the money, and they pay 40.1% of the tax. That seems fair to me. But many people aren't interested in numbers or percentages. They're easily swayed by politicians who say the government needs more money to help somebody or do something, and declare that the rich aren't paying their fair share. The top 1% are paying 40% of the money to the government, and the top 50% are paying 97% of the money. The politicians use the slogan, "Let's tax the rich," which to most people sounds like, let's tax somebody else. So they believe their vote will give them more stuff from the government, and they won't have to pay for it. Since no one bothers to check where all that money goes that the government spends, there's no accountability. It works time and again, election after election. It takes a really weak candidate to lose an election where you promise the moon and send the bill to someone else. The next step away from freedom is what's called crony capitalism. This is where companies don't have to compete in a free market, but they rely on tax breaks and other incentives from the government to succeed. It used to be illegal for politicians to pick winners and losers. A former vice president lost his job over this kind of behavior. He had been the governor of Maryland, and then he was the vice president, and then he was fired because of this kind of behavior. But now all the politicians have to do is they have a global imperative. They have a mandate to make one industry shut down so they can support another industry. They're picking winners and losers. When thriving companies give large campaign contributions to their political benefactors, you've got crony capitalism. An example, a recent president, 2009, promised 4,000 new jobs if we'd only give tax dollars to this new startup solar company in California named Solyndra. So he took $535 million, taxpayer dollars, to give it to this struggling startup company. That company had given him $87,000 in campaign donations. It's basically, I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. The end result of that was we got 1,100 jobs for almost 3 years. And then the plant shut down and sent all those jobs to China. It ended up costing us $486,000 per job. But crony capitalism doesn't solve the problem of unequal distribution of the wealth. It just makes different people rich, the ones who contribute to the politicians. So the next step along this route is called, away from freedom, is called democratic socialism, where politicians set ceilings on how much people can make and how little you can pay your employees. And believing they know better, they write laws and issue edicts about how each aspect of your business must be run. Welcome to Bernie Sanders' America, as the president mumbles his approval. Socialism is sold by arrogant politicians as a fair way to eliminate inequality. By arrogant, I mean people who believe they know better than you how to run your life. A few simple road marks to show whether you're on the path to freedom or socialism are: if your taxes are going up, you are less free. Even if you think you're getting something for your money, when the government pays for something, they control it. 2, if the government regulations are increasing, you are less free, even if you like them. It's the government controlling your life. 3, with increased regulation comes a need for pencil pushers and thugs to define and enforce a new fair society. Fair society. With each new public sector job, the country's debt increases and freedom diminishes. After all this government help has weakened the economy, the arrogant politicians next try to convince us that nationalizing businesses will solve our problems. They say things like, we must act swiftly and powerfully to organize blue ribbon panels of our best minds and use government power to implement their solutions. This approach is favored by many of our university professors who teach the problems we face are too great to be solved by a disorganized free market. This is called socialism, and many arrogant politicians secretly wish for this increased power. At this point, many honest citizens realize they prefer the way things used to be and want their freedom back. But once politicians have become drunk with power, they seldom give it back. So the next step is military enforcement of socialistic ideas. That's called communism. Welcome to Cuba or Venezuela. I would place 4 of our recent presidents in a different category. It's a category I prefer. I'll show you some of these people. Here's one. What did he say? He said the great dynamic of success of capitalism has given us a powerful weapon in our battle against communism: money. Simply put, capitalism produces growth. We get more money. Another president, with the help of Newt Gingrich, I have to say. He was basically quoting Ronald Reagan here, but I'll give him credit because he did say it. Ronald Reagan said the best social program is a job. Bill Clinton added a word. Bill Clinton said the best social program is a good job. But I'll give him credit. We had some of the best economic times in Bill Clinton's second term, thanks to, once again, Newt Gingrich. Here we have this handsome young man. He said that free market capitalism is far more than an economic theory. It's the engine of social mobility, the highway to the American dream. That president got into a lot of trouble because when he ran, some of you older folks might remember, he said that he was going to be a compassionate conservative. But his goals were noble, I'd say. Get the government off the people's backs, let businesses do their jobs, build a safety net that catches those who fail in the competitive marketplace. This downsizing involves wasteful government bureaucracy. This involves downsizing wasteful government bureaucracy and eliminating harmful regulations. An essential, well, we have one more guy. Everybody likes to hate this guy, but he did say something here that makes a little bit of sense when he wasn't talking about how great he is. He said, "Our republic was formed on the basis that freedom is not a gift from government, but that freedom is a gift from God." I like that. Freedom causes inequality. But that creates an essential component of the human contract in my mind. That is to provide assistance for the less abled. But it's just as important not to generate more less abled people with policies and educational ideas that punish success and reward laziness or incompetence. Each step away from this type of freedom fails because it offers the hope that someone else, the government, can make important decisions about your life better than you can. This just encourages dependence on the government that basically only cares about you every 4 years, and then they only care about your vote. Millions of refugees have fled countries around the world, but think about it. Name one where people are leaving a free market country to live in a socialist country. A recently single man said something that's actually quite true. Capitalism has worked very well. Anyone who wants to move to North Korea is welcome. How many people are moving to North Korea? Nobody. America has strayed a long way from the day when President Kennedy said, "Ask not what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." Our role models have reversed 180 degrees from the day when President Bush the first said, we're trying to strengthen the American family to make them more like the Waltons and less like the Simpsons." Our role models are completely different now. So my conclusion to this lady's video about what socialism did to her country: if you want to make America great, start in your home. Make wise choices. Teach the value of a good education. Learn a skill. Get a job. Be responsible for yourself. Parents, be the kind of people you want your kids to become. And kids, surprise everybody and become better than your parents. If you do all that with humility, I believe you'll have a full and rewarding life. But one thing you still lack. There's a life after this one. And accomplishing all those things is not sufficient to obtain it. Regardless of what many learned and respected authorities say, you were created as a child of God for a purpose. And step one is to believe and follow His Son. Do this, and you will have a good life and a good forever life after this mortal one. Have a good day.